have more understanding of the actual exam. So if you haven't taken the online exam, I think it's important to familiarize yourself. There are 6 buckets of questions, and that's split across 12 to 25 marks. A total, it's 80 marks. It's 2.5 hours, which is 150 minutes for people with English as first language, and it's 185 minutes or 30, 35 plus more for minutes for people whose English is not your first language. I appreciate, I understand you might be familiar with English, you have been writing English, but please do, if your mother tongue is not English, please do tick this box. You might need it because this exam does drain you big time. So pass mark is 40% and you have to score 80, but that's where the second point comes in. You are not actually examining for 80 marks. At max, you are, regardless who you are going to lose 10 marks anyway. So you have to score 40 out of 70. And I'll explain what I mean by that in the coming slides. Then it's open book, which is manual. Again, that's the flip side. You might think it's an open book, body of knowledge, etc. But in the real exam, if you have 2 screens, which is allowed in the exam, I'll also share that you can't flip from one screen to the other. So you have scenario and you have the actual answers in one place, then additional information in the other. If you flip it over, go to be okay and come back, it wastes time, it adds more stress, etc. But just to keep you happy, it's an open book and it's an exam. So what we have here, we gradually go and we do. So the practitioner syllabus, interestingly, I will check with you who have done foundation recently. It's actually built from the foundation syllabus. So let's just go from there. As I mentioned here, practitioner equals foundation plus additional 7 chapters. So if you have already done the foundation recently, then you should be good to go. But remember, foundation just talks about what is the best practice, but here you need to apply the best practice. Screenshot this page because this is going to be super important for you. Why? Because this is where we are peeling the layer. I have read behavior and attitude here. Behavior and attitude, obviously, Bhaskar is different to Rebecca. Rebecca is different to Rita. Rita is reflect to Azruddin, right? But the behavior and attitude questions, which is 12 marks, you need to behave in the way APMP examiner behaves. So nobody knows how he or she behaves, but that's a tough one. I mean, chances of you scoring 6 marks, which is what we need to score out of 12 to pass, is going to be pretty challenging. So you may be scoring only 4. This is why I mean you're not actually taking the test for 80 marks, you're taking the test for 70 marks. So you're going to lose, even if you flip upside down, you're going to do that. But that person, the moment we share the sample paper, which is our sample paper, the first thing he said that is, I now know what the examiner wanted. The moment you get to the mindset of examiner, this behavior and attitude question, you can score even 12 out of 12, but it's a challenge. So information, research, management, first part. Then you have the planning and management development. Each of these sections has, there are 45 units behind this. So all these are in body of knowledge, which I'll share. But the important thing is not every syllabus areas is examined at the same way. So life is not fair, as they say. Similarly, the examinable syllabus is also not fair. So you may be very good in certain areas in the way you collect the information, collect the inputs for your questions, subject matter inputs, and you build up questions there. And the way you plan your content planning, do it, or the way you this is where your personal experiences comes in. But either way, remember this. The marks will be split between 12, 28, and 28 and 12, which means if you are going to lose some marks, which is behavior and attitude, you need to get more on the other 3 sections. The other tip here is, but you might be naturally very good in one of these 3 sections anyway, which means you need to do your best. And again, by taking the mock test, you're going to know at the very end which areas you have scored well. So you need to go deeper on those areas to score even more, and you need to reduce. And if you are losing some marks in planning and management, for example, then you need to work on that sections by going back, referring, studying more about the syllabus areas. But look into this, and we are going to go deeper on this. But for now, note down the syllabus areas are split up into 4 sections. Let's go. Next, the question types. The first layer of complexity we already talked, which is the syllabus areas, which means Not every syllabus areas, you're going to score the same way. Next comes the question type. The question type, if you have taken a foundation, the very basic question type is classic. Like there is a question, there are 4 options. You just pick up one of the options, happy days, you just move on. But in practitioner, there are 4 different forms. The building up from the classic question is what we call multiple response. So instead of choosing one response, you're going to choose 2. But let me also, unfortunately, make this red, because in this case, you need to pick up 2 answers. If you pick one answer correct and one answer wrong, you're going to lose both the marks, which means the chances of you picking all the questions correct in the multiple response question, say, assuming there are 18 marks associated to it, the chances of you getting all 9 questions correct, 9 into 2, 18, is going to be very rare. You're going to get maybe 3 or 4 correct, and you're going to get the rest 3 or 4 partly correct, and you're going to get the rest 3 or 4 maybe completely wrong. So what that meant is that 18 marks, you may be able to score 8 to 10 marks. So this is the reason when I mentioned that you're not actually examining for 80 or bidding for 70, because there will be chances 2 questions, 2 responses might look very similar out of 4 options, and you might pick up 2, but you might lose some marks there. But thinking carefully, multiple response questions, the moment you see 2 responses, your brain should automatically shade it. In a piece of paper, you should write that question is 2, and I'm going to take some time to answer. So that's second. Then comes the matching and sequence matching, which is part of point number 2. Matching is simply column A to column B, just match. Here you will have a definition, and there you will have what that means. So they might give you a definition of executive summary, value propositions, and theme statements. And there they might have just the keywords of executive summary, value propositions, just match them, what is it. But in other cases, it might be sequence matching. So you just have to order them. Which comes first? Which one do you do first? Which one do you do second, third? This is where you might again face some challenges, which is like the way you might do the way bidding might not be the same way APMP wants you to do. Again, you need to unlearn to relearn. So you might pick, hey, I always do exec summary at the very beginning, and I'll do it again, and I'll do it again. I always do my kickoff meeting, halfway through the journey. But APMP says you should be done 15% before the actual deadline, 15% from your proposal life cycle, etc. This is where the way you might do the work versus APMP might do the work might be a little bit challenging. This is why this exam is tough, slightly tough. I'll come back to it, why it's slightly tough. So matching from one place to other, sequence matching, you just need to order it. The last comes assertion. Assertion is like a love or hate relationship, but you now need to start to write wherever you can, I love assertion, I love assertion. You know what, it's fine, whatever your family thinks about it, don't worry about it. Please start to love assertion, because this is the easiest question type, but because it's quite time consuming to answer this, people hate it. But this is by far the less complex, straightforward, knowledge-based. If you're doing foundation, assertion questions is where foundation type question comes up. But because it's packaged in a way, it's hard, you need to kind of start to love this. The moment you see assertion, you just need to punch up and say, hey, that's the best. I am going to score more. So assertion, I have a few examples. I'll share that with you. We have column A and column B. We just need to first go through individual columns in column B, not column A, column B, and first confirm, are these true, 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 true? Those are 4 statements in column B that you need to answer whether they are true. Then you have to do the same exercise in column A to see, is these individual statements true or false? Now you have done the test 1 and test 2, which is column B and column A. The next part is we just need to match and or understand the reason for column A to exist is column B, right? So is it an assertion or they're both independent? Is there any correlation between the column B response and column A response? If there is a correlation, the answer is A. If both our individual statements are true, but there is no correlation, the answer is B. And if there is no correlation, but they all are true or false individually, then the answer is C, D, E, etc. When I show the example, you're going to do. But the point here is you need to remember, you need to start to love assertion. So the scenario, the question, and the answer. right? That's the part. The scenario, again, you need to start to, I'll touch the scenario, but the most important thing is, by taking mock exam, we recommend taking the mock exam 3 times, and I'll explain why. But it's important to get the scenario, because the scenario kind of tells who the buyer is and who are the competitor is. There's a separate slide about scenario, but for now, understand part of the structure of the paper. There is a scenario split up into 6 sections. Each sections will have 12 questions or something roughly, and you're going to go from there. Remember, we talked about assertion and the other questions. Now, the second slide I would like you to take a picture is this one. The syllabus is again not fair. It's 12, 24, 24, 12, or 28, 28, 12, something like that, my memory. And the assertion questions, right? This is where your experience of this exam will be unique for you. Nobody can tell, I have got this, so you are going to do it in the same way. We have trained 150 plus students, not one had the same experience with this test. You're going to find your own pattern. You're going to find what's unique about you, how you're going to apply. But this is how we are peeling the layers. Number one, we got the syllabus. Now we are going to look at the question types. The reason I say start to love assertion is, guys, this is by far the most easiest, but because its package is hard. So 18 to 28, in your mind, you need to start standards in your own brain. Assertion questions, I am going to get minimum 18, if possible, more than 18. Because that's it. But you're going to get, as it says, you're going to get 3 questions, which has 4 marks each, or you're going to get 7 questions, which 4 marks each. So that's how the whole thing pans out. So anyway, there will be maximum 6 assertion part questions, which could be around 24 or 28 marks. So you now need to say, for the assertion questions, I'm going to score as maximum as possible. The good news is the behavior and attitude syllabus area will not be examined in the assertion type, which is even better for you. So you are going to get more marks. So assertion, that question, you're going to score as many. Multiple response, I already touched. Tough one, because you might score, as it says, 16 to 22. There will be maximum 5 multiple part questions. So that's like 5 into 2, or it could be more than 5-ish it comes up with. But either way, you fairly assume if it's 16 or 22, let's take a middle part, say 20, and if which means there are 10 part questions. So 10 questions multiplied by 2 marks, you need to aim to get maybe 4 to 5 correct, and maybe 6, 7 correct, but don't bet on it to just say you're going to get all correct. So you need to start to see multiple response, be even more attentive, and try to score your maximum on that. The assertion, you need to also be attentive, because that's you cannot waste any marks on this. In this one, also you have to try to score as much. Just save this one. Then comes classic matching sequence question. This is, as I already mentioned, half of the questions will be coming from this one. So classic, this is where, but whatever the question that's in a simple question format will be the hardest, which means all the knowledge-based questions, which is like, just tell me what an executive summary is, just tell me who should be taking this role. Is the capture manager or the proposal manager? That type of questions will be coming in the assertion question. The analysis questions, which is like you need to base on, regardless, you need to base it on the scenario, base it on who is the buyer, who's the competitor, the interaction between them. That analysis questions will be coming in the classic matching and sequence matching. So remember that your third level of complexity here is the learning level, which is the application and the analysis. Again, if you have a piece of paper, you have to have 3 columns. One, the syllabus areas, the question types, and the learning levels. The permutation and the combination between all 3 things is what's going to make this exam interesting for you. And you need to create your own pattern. You need to create, okay, assertion questions, I'm going to go deeper. Multiple response, I'm going to do my best, because those 2 predominantly are going to be knowledge-based, because it's quite hard for them to go anymore. But the other questions, because it's single questions, it's much easy to go in the analysis-based. Analysis means you'd have to look at the scenario, but remember, when the additional information, the scenario, whatever they say might be changed, like how you get a clarification question in an exam. This is based on a scenario. Halfway through the process, they identify the buyer has changed the specification. Now, answer this. So you might be having an analysis question. You might have got the answer right, but in additional information, the answer is different and you miss it. So that's the reason the analysis part is slightly complex, but to balance your expectations, analysis questions will be the most part of the question because this is practitioner. So these 3 slides save it. And you now need to plan your self-study around these.